Hi guys, as promised, today we're going to be talking about audio, and I'm going to be sharing with you 5 tips on how to make your audio sound more like this and not like this. Now, if you're a content creator, you would know how important sound is to your videos. If your sound is good, your audience is really able to engage with your content. If your sound is bad, they're just going to skip to the next video. So with that understanding, here are 5 simple beginner tips that you can start implementing right away that will improve the sound of your videos. Number 1, use the right microphone. Now, here are 5 typical types of microphones that you're going to come across. Now, there are other types of microphones, but 90% of the time, these are the ones that you're going to be working with. The internal microphone of your camera or your phone, if that's what you're filming with. You need this to sync up audio later when you're recording with a separate device. But in terms of actually using this for your videos, no, it sounds bad. The on-camera shotgun microphone. Now, this is the shotgun mic that goes on top of your camera. It is slightly better than the internal microphones on your camera. However, if your camera is far away from you, it's just as bad.
Fingers crossed, I'll be able to get through all of it without breaking down. But the main thing is I hope to be able to film with the FX30.
Now, this is great for vlogging though, because when you're vlogging, your camera is relatively close to your face, so the audio is actually pretty decent. A good example is the Rode Video mic, or if you want a cheaper option, you can go with the Takstar SGC598 interview mic. Now, the third and probably the second most popular type of microphone you're going to be using is the lavalier microphone right here. Most of this can be plugged directly into your camera and even your phone. Now, it's a lot closer to your mouth. That means it's going to sound better than the on-camera microphone. Now, lav mics can be wired. That means it's a long cable that plugs into your camera, or wireless. Now, the wired ones tend to be cheaper, but it kind of defeats the whole purpose of a lav mic, which is to allow you that freedom to be close or further away from the camera and still able to have a good quality audio recording. Just keep in mind that there might be rustling from the clothing. There's clothing rustling like this, even though you're moving up and down. Calm down, don't start jumping. So a good example is the Rode Go, which is what I have on right now. If you want a cheaper option, you can go with the Tascam DR10L, or an even cheaper one like the Power Dewise. Now, let's say your budget would only allow you to get one type of mic. I would suggest you go with the on-camera shotgun mic. It will serve you for vlogging because it's close enough to you when you're holding the camera, and you can always bring it even closer to you to record voiceovers, narration, etc. But my advice though is that you get both an on-camera shotgun and a lav mic so that you're prepared for any situation that you find yourself in. Another type of microphone, and probably the most popular that you will come across, would be the boom mic. Now, this is simply a shotgun mic that is mounted on a boom arm, which is either operated by a boom operator or is simply mounted on a stand like I have right here. Now, I've brought it down so that you can see it in the frame. It's very unidirectional. That means right now it's facing my mouth, so the audio is going to be very clean and crisp. The minute I turn it away, all of a sudden the audio is not as good or as crisp as always, but the minute I turn it right back, there you go. Now, it can be mounted from the top just like this, or it can be mounted at the bottom. A good example is the Rode NTG4 like I have here. And no, I am not being sponsored by Rode. I just happen to have a lot of their microphones. If you're looking for a budget option though, you can always try out the Deity S Mic 2. Now, something to note with shotgun mics is that most of them will not plug directly into your cameras because they use XLR cables. Now, if your camera has some form of XLR input, great. If it doesn't, then you're going to need an audio interface, for example, the Focusrite Scarlett 2i2, or you're going to need an external recorder like the Zoom H4n. I have the Zoom H5 because someone spoiled my H4n. You know yourself, thunder with fire.
Now, last but not least, we have studio mics. These are great for recording podcasts, vocals for music, voiceovers, and lots more. A good example is the Shure SM7B right here. It's not very cheap.
If you're looking for a more budget-friendly one, you might want to look at the Blue Yeti. Now, unlike the boom mic that is usually out of frame, this one will usually be in your frame because of how close it needs to be to your mouth when you're speaking. The minute you take a step away from it, yeah, it loses quite. By the time we come back to it, you have some really nice sounding audio. Number 2, proximity. You want to get your microphone as close as possible to your subject, in this case yourself. I don't care how expensive your microphone is, if it's too far away from you, your sound of your audio will not be good. Now the NTG4 is about a feet away from my mouth, right out of frame here. Now this is the same mic about 5 feet away from me. You can begin to see how the quality of the audio is already reducing. Now the same thing applies to your lav mics. You want it as close to your mouth as possible. So this isn't the best place because you can tell that it's a bit muffled compared to what you're hearing now with the sound being here. Tip number 3, location. You want to be recording in a quiet or relatively quiet environment. So if there's any source of noise, for example, maybe it's an air conditioner, an inverter, you want to move away as much as possible from those sorts of noises. Now, of course, there are some situations where you would not have any control over this, and if the noise is relatively okay, go ahead and record. A little bit of denoising can be done in post-production. Also ensure that there is no echo in the environment because that is very hard to treat in post-production. Tip number 4, get your levels right. If the level of your recording is low, you will have to add some gain by the time you're editing to raise the volume up to a point where people can hear. And when you do that, you're going to raise the general noise of the audio, which means that the entire sound of your video is not going to be good. So you always want to make sure that your audio levels are set right when recording. A good range would be between -18 dB for the lower points and then -6 dB for the highest points. Just be careful not to increase it too much. Don't allow it to hit the red, don't allow it to hit the 0 dB because then it's going to be too loud and you're going to have some clipping, which would sound like this. And finally, tip number 5 will be compression and mixing. In every recording, the levels are never consistent. Sometimes you may sound really high and sometimes you may sound really low. So what compression does is that it helps us to keep our levels a little bit more consistent. Now, I won't go too deep into depression. Wonderful. I won't go too deep into compression, at least not for this video anyway, but a simple method is to use the dynamics inside of Premiere Pro. Just drag it onto your clip from the effects panel, select soft compression from the presets drop-down menu and tweak the makeup dial until the vocals are peaking at around -6 dB. That's it. Now there are a lot more that can be done to your audio in the edit, for example adding an EQ or even using more advanced compression tools. However, this video is meant for beginners and going into that would be too advanced. And that is it for this video. I hope this has been helpful for some of you. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to put it in the comment section below or text me like some of you have been doing, and I will see you in the next video.